Today you're going to learn how to write successfully introductions and conclusions for your text-dependent analysis. So think about if you were having a phone conversation. A phone conversation begins with your greeting. Hello, how are you? This is also where you are looking at giving a little bit of small talk. How's your weekend going? This is great weather. Have you been to the fair? How's grandma doing? In your essay, this is very similar to your introduction, where you have a hook where you're grabbing somebody's attention and then you're kind of summarizing a little bit. Your phone call also says, hey, the reason I'm calling is because I want to know if I can borrow $10, or I'd like to call and order a pizza. This is your thesis in your writing. So when you get to your essay and you're talking about the specifics of your conversation, what do you want on your pizza? How much money do you want to borrow? Are you going to give that money back? That's the body of your essay. And then when you end the phone call, appropriately, you should be able to have a summary of the phone call. Thank you for lending me the money. Okay, yes, I will see you in 20 minutes for my pizza. I look forward to seeing you soon. And that's your conclusion. So let's start off with our introduction. First, you have to hook us. You want to make us want to read more. So give us a taste of what's to come. Maybe you're adding some of your research there, you're giving a little bit further explanation, but do we have a clear picture of your topic? And in your introduction, you definitely want to have that strong thesis statement as your last sentence. So when we're writing an introduction, it should be a paragraph that's abundant and has a purpose. So don't keep it short with 2 or 3 sentences because that's not enough. And don't write so much that it's overbearing when we're reading it. So think of like this upside down triangle. You start off with your hook, which is a small piece, couple sentences, then you go into your background information or your summary of your text, and then you end with that small thesis. So let's talk about hooks. There are a lot of different hooks that you can use, but these are 4 that are the most common. First of all, you can use some type of statistic or fact. If you know a fact about your topic or maybe a statistic that you can add, this could be a great way to make your writing more powerful. You could also use some type of question. If you're going to use this type of question, you just want to make sure that you aren't just asking the question and then not following up. So a good question should have some meat to it. A description is going to be very emotional, very visual, and it's going to help us connect a little bit more. And then you might have a quotation that you could use. So maybe you know a famous quote from a person, or even you can use quoted text from the actual article that you're reading about. So then that leads us into our background information or our summary. So if you're researching a topic, you want to provide some background information about that topic. What do we need to know to understand what bullying is about or why the death penalty is important? Or it could just be the summary of the text. So if you are doing a TDA on a text that you're reading, you might want to use that someone won it but so or then strategy, or that one sentence summary for your poem, or your W questions for your nonfiction. So when you're doing this, when you're reading, this is a great strategy to use. That leads us into our thesis. So reminders. Thesis should be your focus of your paper. It's like your roadmap. Should have your topic, your focus or claim or position, and your 3 subtopics. And remember where they're supposed to be located. That leads us into the conclusion. Our conclusion is probably the hardest thing to write. It shouldn't leave us hanging, and we should feel satisfied or content with the outcome. So when we read your conclusion as a reader, we want to be able to understand your thinking. We want to be thinking. We also want to remember your topic. And I always ask yourself, so what? Now what? So what about this topic? What's the big idea? Now what are we going to do about it? And then we look back at our triangle again. For our conclusion, our triangle is now the right way. We start with our thesis, then we lead into our background for information or summary, and then we lead into our sinker. And our sinker is very much like our hook, and it should be a couple sentences. Now these are the 4 common ways that you could end. For example, you could do a touch back. So think about if you were touching your back and saying, good job. This is where you connect or mirror the hook. So at the beginning, if you're asking a question, you should come back to that question at the end. You could also talk about hand over heart, like if you were pledging. So if you were doing your hand over heart, this is where you're looking at an emotional reaction. Think about if you're saluting. This could be a look or a prediction into the future. What do you think will happen next? And then think about if you were stomping your foot. This is called ending with a zing. This is where you're adding your strong style techniques, your strong fact, or even that strong quote. So if you're using all of these strategies, you will have a great paper.